Hello.
Hey, hello.
Good day. Hello. Good day, everyone. Welcome to Concordia Consularis, the Spiritual and Business Agency of Peace. My name is Angela, and this is Harrison. Lovely subscribers, you know us already. And we're back today after a bit of a marathon this morning as we examine peace in these oncoming times and looking at the system structure of propelling war. And we're going to have a little voyage today because this is a long story. And so just before I say anything and we hurl ourselves into this spiritual court of equity, I'm just going to say that if you would like a session with myself, looking at your own internal spiritual peace, please do contact me, details below. Thank you to those who have sent in their email addresses for the purposes of notifying you of new information that comes through that may not visit the public sphere in these times. And this is particularly related to the areas of health and well-being and the removal of disease and illnesses from your spiritual technology that you exist with. So without further ado, leave a like, if you will. That really that helps us in some way. We're very grateful for that. So hello, Harrison, how are you doing?
Hello, Angela. I'm doing fantastic. It has been a great week for me. Maybe from your end.
Yeah, it's been an interesting week. I will say that. Many personal triumphs as well. So without further ado, today we're talking about the different wars that have taken place and opening a specific spiritual court of equity to achieve peace on planet Earth without being led down a narrative path of destruction and destruction of races on Earth today. So doors are open, lovely people, for this spiritual court of equity. And we are going to invite in all those that are seeking war in this moment. And these will be the different races, the different ancestors are going to also accompany us. And those who engage in this warfare against others due to personal reasons or family lineage reasons. This could be Russia, this could be Korea, North Korea, this could be Israel, this could be Palestine, this could be Africa. This could be in any country that is being affected today by the tyranny of the system narrative to harvest and utilize and undervalue human life and violate free will principles, violate souls, and keep them entrapped in low-level warlike thinking. So let's just make sure that we've got all the low-level thinkers and proponents of this system narrative in. And let's just ensure that all parties here are, I mean, Harrison, you can probably sense the arrival here of those that wish to wage their wars. You know, needless to say, they're an angry group of people.
I'm getting this feeling of like a king is visiting a village, the way he sends, this guy in this convoy. The king is on top of the horse, but there's this person who is introducing the king to the villagers, and they introduce him in an arrogant way, expecting people to bend the knee. And this is how these guys are entering, the courts, expecting that, we'll even care who they are or what they are doing. And they are demanding like that we need to serve them, or it's like this kind of arrogance. And
Boring, isn't it?
yeah.
So many cultures will have been here before, and the only ones that suffer are those that are just trying to live and live in peace, live freely. But historically, we've been discussing some of the actions that keep this level of entrapment in. So we're taking a slightly different perspective. We are, and there was one in particular that caught my eye as Harrison explained it. Harrison, would you like to explain about the interned body and soul of the original line of Ethiopia?
Oh, yeah. The story goes like during the reign of King Solomon, the news spread of the way he was wise. He was all these great things. And then there was a queen of Sheba. Her name was, as it goes, some people call her Makeda. And she made a convoy coming from Ethiopia, going all the way to Israel to see for herself who King Solomon was, and also to believe and see what he could do. And he had also prepared quite difficult questions and all the other tests that she had made. And so when she made the convoy going up to Israel, in her stay there, she became expectant, and she came back to Ethiopia, and she gave birth to a son called Mendelkwan. And all this record, if you go into the Ethiopian records, you'll find the story of Mendelkwan when he was about 19 years old. He made his way back to Israel, or around his teenage years, he made his way back to Israel. And while he was there in Israel, this is when the Ark of the Covenant at that time, King Solomon has deviated to the way of the Lord, as it is written, because he had married several women, and he was worshipping other gods. And because of this, the priests at that time were not quite happy with the way Solomon was conducting things. And so they arranged a way of making sure the Ark of the Covenant was taken from from Israel. And this is the way it came to Ethiopia. And it was Menelik I who came with this Ark of the Covenant. And from that lineage of Menelik I, this is where even Haile Selassie comes from, and other lineages. I know people are quite familiar with them. Even the Rastafari community, they know the story very well of how all that came up to be. And also we remember there was a time when the Queen of England made his way to Ethiopia to see this Ark of the Covenant. And those people who had accompanied the Queen in the name of being security were experts or historians of the Ark of the Covenant. And when they tested that Ark of the Covenant, they said it's not the original, it's a fake, or some kind of information or of that sort. But the story that goes is that it was around 1200s, during the time of the Knight Templars, So the Pope at that time was in pursuit of religious relics. And one of the religious relics that he was pursuing was the Ark of the Covenant. And this brought him to Ethiopia, Somali kind of region. And I believe at this time that's when Axiom was, Ethiopia was not called Ethiopia, it had another name, and I think it was Axiom at that time. So there was kind of commotions and all that stuff. So because there was this religious kind of priesthood that wanted to protect this ark, and this is where they ventured downwards and they brought the ark up to Mount Kenya. And they went through a lot of struggles. It's a long story, I'm just cutting it short. And they placed it there. And from the stories from the elders there, it's not placed in the third dimension where you can just go and maybe open a cave and peek inside and look. They say it has been hidden in the fourth dimension, where only the priesthood can be able to access it, and they pick it out, do whatever they do with their services and ceremonies, and they take it back into that dimension. But in the recent years, we have seen many, what would I call them, investigators, coming into that mountain, doing research, wanting to know the stories. Even previous Prime Minister of Israel normally come to Kenya in the name of tourism, but in reality, they all want to go up to that mountain and have this experience. Not necessarily to go and search for the Ark of the Covenant, but they already do know the story of the background because they all have these records. And also, next to that mountain, you have a very huge British Army base that's there. And there are so many things that happen around.
It's very interesting.
Yeah. So a lot of interesting. And so this is the story around the Ark of the Covenant. But also going back to the Ethiopian culture, we do know that there was an Ethiopian prince that was taken or kidnapped by the British government at that time. I think maybe it's around in the 1800s. And he was taken to Ethiopia and he died and he was buried there. And the Ethiopian government has been demanding for the remains of that prince, but up to this day, the British government has refused to take the remains back to its original country.
So the location of the remains are at Windsor Castle. And this is a historic stronghold of the current British line that are in their presumed sense of power. So while you were explaining that story into the spiritual court of equity, we have all the historical priests who worked to protect that technology and its originating creation. They are here and they're currently performing the ceremony, because we're going to cut to the chase. So what I'm going to do here is something very different today. And that is that we're going to look at all the past lives of Earth's story. And these are past experiences of times and infinite times past, as well as future timelines. So I had no idea it was going to run in this way, but it seems like the most direct route to the resolution. So in that ceremony, these items, these sacred power items, cannot be hidden or taken over, nor can the remains of all the individuals that held position in royal lineages from the universe and from the stars through all ancestors present. And this is going to be interesting because there are groups here that are remembering. You may have awakened memories that come through your experience here. Because what has happened is that they've sought to annihilate the races and take them over. This is nothing new. So I'm going to request the liberation of the soul of the interned royal lineages stuck in British ground at Windsor. While this ceremony is prepared and in process. And your observations, please, in this current spiritual court of equity, Harrison.
I was just getting from this area where the British the government buried some of these African people, royalty, and other freedom fighters, because they would behead them and carry their head off to Britain. I'm getting there was this ritual. It was like a dark magic that was being done to them to bind them to this system. And this is what has been looked into and being crumbled. And also they not only did they take the people, I'm getting that they took these objects that we call objects of power. Like, for example, if this elder was using a staff or like a walking stick, because some of these were the religious artifacts, they would carry the stick because they believe maybe the stick has some power. Like, for example, the way before the king or the queen is sworn in to become the king or the queen in the United Kingdom, they have to kneel on this stone that they call, Jacob stone, in the name of like Jacob slept and the heavens were opened and angels were coming up and down into this stone. So it's the same way they when they came into Africa, and these guys had artifacts, or what they would call for them really. Maybe it's a stool, maybe it's a cup, maybe it's a mask. So
Yeah.
they would,
yeah.
yeah.
And in the case of Mexico, and you'll see all these objects in the British Museum. In the case of Mexico, we have the stones of Tezcatlipoca, which were misused. So we're just bringing in making sure all parties are in, the magicians too, because here comes the very big magic. Now, can you observe what's going on with the ceremonial creators for the Ark of the Covenant?
So when I'm looking at this thing, I'm seeing it's a very, very religious group, or not religious necessarily. The word that I'm looking for, they are spiritual people who maybe the way we think they operated is not the way they operated at that time. They might have used different procedures or different way of worships that to this day, if it will be revealed, some of them would call them as heresy, or they are demonic, or these strange words that that people normally want to throw out there. But I would say they are very spiritual people, and they look at the way they are health-wise, spiritually, and also emotionally, to make sure that they're able to fulfill. Because the reason why this Ark of the Covenant was powerful, it was because of the energy that it was able to draw. And if you are not in a certain vibratory frequency, it would kill you. Like, for example, you have stories of it being transported, maybe when it was captured by the Palestinians, and was being transported back to Israel when it had caused havoc into that land of Palestine. There was a point where, the Ark of the Covenant, it kind of slipped, and one of the Israelites tried to stretch his hand and stop it from falling over. And it said that the hand of the Lord struck him. But it's not necessarily God coming from heaven and striking this person. It is the energy that was being emitted by this Ark of the Covenant. And since he was not in the same vibratory frequency with this Ark of the Covenant,
Exactly.
this is why, yeah, he was zapped because of the.
Exactly. You see, if the heart is closed, it's going to blow you to pieces. If your heart is open, then it's going to have an awakening effect on the soul. So we have to be very careful with this, and this will go into soul level, monad level. So I'm just requesting the presence of all souls to find out who is ready and who isn't, and it will be adjusted for those that are not ready, so that everybody, every single soul on the planet gets their awakening peace that they infinitely carry. And they're not quite there with it yet. They're just going to give a minute or so to complete that. And how are these warring factions looking and in this moment?
Well, they didn't expect this to happen. It's like also them, they have been looking for this object for such a long time because they understand its power. Also, on top of that, they understand its religious kind of belief system. Like, for example, if you can imagine if it can be physically be gotten and taken to this temple they are building, you can imagine the command it would influence in terms of the religious people. And at the moment we're in a place,
Misused, no doubt, for their own ill-gotten gain.
Yeah, definitely manipulation would happen. You'd be told to bend the knee to whatever agenda they want to implement. They would call some people not worthy and themselves worthy, so the unworthy people needs to be eradicated and nobody would question. It's kind of a skewed kind of a way of
It is.
manipulating reality. And then the next thing they would, bring it out and show its force because they know how to harness it. Or
and then people go into fear. So
yeah.
I'm just going to ask and request the original creators of this technology to perform a ceremony of peace through all timelines, past lives of Earth, warring times, warring factions, as part of the great resolution for all cultures.
Yeah, and as they're doing that, I'm also being reminded in the previous regime that we had in our country. This was between 2018 to 2022. I can't remember the correct year that this happened, but the Catholic Church and some other guys, they created a replica of the Ark of the Covenant and they presented it to the president. So that was the information that I'm being invited to bring forward. Yeah.
Lots of copies and replicas. Clones almost.
Definitely. They do some of these things. But the funny thing is that they have never been able to understand, this power that this Ark of the Covenant, since they have the dimensions, they can be able to create the exact box or whatever thing that was there, and even shape the stones like in the description that it has been given, but it has never drawn out power as the original Ark. was doing, because I've never been able to crack that part of the information.
It's coming online as we speak. I just want you to tune into the energy of it. You're going to feel it up here. It's not going to enter the body, but it's going to the energies are going to interact with the souls.
What I'm picking up is that it's acting like an amplifier. So if you're in this kind of vibratory frequency and you're able to tap it, you can amplify your energy 1,000-fold.
And we're just doing that with peace outside of dual construct. Really begin to feel those upper levels of peace. It hasn't even started yet, it's just a fraction. And can you observe what's happening to the warring factions on Earth today, governments and so on?
Yeah, the moment you are saying that, what the warring factions have been doing is that they have shifted their war, or they have used one of their items of war, and that is the financial muscle, where they riddle these countries that they know that this peace is gonna emanate from, or a different type of thinking is gonna come out, and they riddle them with debt and slavery, and this kind of cycle that you can never get yourself out, to just make sure that they are able to cut off that energy and zap it out. But the funny thing is that what they are forgetting is something that is called a wild card. On paper, your process might look perfect, excellent, it's fulfilled to the end, and these people may never come off. But there's something that is called a wild card, and it only needs a moment to change everything in an instant.
Exactly. This is going rippling out into all timelines across the planet throughout Earth. There will be no World War III. I'm just showing all the dictators that. And they know that there's nothing they can do.
Yeah, the energy is not there. People don't want to go into the military or to go fighting for something that they don't even believe in, just because you two are so egoistical that you can't sit together and have a cup of tea and discuss some of these issues that are affecting the people and expect the rest of the world is gonna come and support your cause. That's ridiculous. Yeah.
Right, it's particularly dense around the UK at this point, I might add. Not that they hold any real power, it's presumed soft power.
But the funny thing that's also happening is that if they are gonna push for some kind of a war, they have been busy destroying farmlands and anything to do with farming.
Yeah.
How do they expect to get their food? Because the moment you create a war, not the insects at the moment, I'm saying for those the elites right now, the reason why you're able to have this kind of thoughts is because you have eaten, you are full, your stomach is full now, and you can sit down and discuss. Now you can imagine the farms where the food is coming from is no longer there. And
That's correct. in the UK, they can just go down to Cornwall and have the Cornwall of Duchy organic products. Just go raid the King's farm.
The king won't be happy about that.
No, there'll be
He
nothing
might
left to
even
do.
increase. Well, the king might even decide to increase rent for everyone. You know, he owns almost the entire of land that people are living on. So
Stolen again 800 years ago from the people. So
yeah,
let's just observe what's happening to the dictadores. What's happening? ¿Qué pasó con dictadores?
the funny thing about this group of people is that it's not that they don't know the law or what the court is doing, or even the laws of their land. It is that they have this mentality: we are superior, we are gonna break every law that is there. What is the population gonna do? And this is the kind of arrogance they hold. They don't care. And if you try to protest, they crush the protest at its grassroots. But this is where this level of peace is coming to the people, where
Right.
no matter what agenda is being manipulated or being played out there, the moment you have this state of peace within yourself, you can be able to make a rational decision, and something which might be looking that it has no way or it has no possible positive outcome, it's flipped around and endless infinite opportunities appear that are beneficial for the people. And this is what they are afraid of, that unity among the people. And if that unity is peace, they are scared of that stuff.
Right. It's really beginning to ramp up. We have participants in the chat room. I think we're using 1990s tech speak. So, for all souls in this spiritual court of equity that ever incarnated onto earth, I invite you to allow more of that harmonic peace in. And that's going to all the warring factions, all those that are misguided through propaganda and lies, and the dictators themselves. All races, all cultures, all ancestors.
Oh, I'm being told also to bring this sense of AI that they are using, where these warring races, there's one thing they fear, and that's death. And creating a version of AI that's bringing the illusion that you can't die, so that you can create infinite years in for yourself. Like, for example, if people have watched this series called Foundation, where in the beginning of this foundation, the leader created a clone of itself, and this clone is in different stages. There's one who is old. It gives the advisory to the ruling clone, and in that ruling clone, there's a younger one who is growing up, who will become the ruler later years. And there's another one that is like in this tube or tank that's forming, reproduce the dying clone. So it's like a person, it's the same person, but ruling in forms of clothes. this is what it's one aspect of this movie called, I mean, series called Foundation, and is the ideology they have where their ideas and themselves, they want to rule like forever without even dying, and they're seeing this AI as a way or a frontier to achieve that,
Yeah,
so
it's
that
just a database at the end of the day. It doesn't
yeah.
really, they say, yes, it thinks for itself. Actually, it is incapable of human thought. It's incapable of creator thought. Some say, yeah, no, it can, but it can't. It can't because it's not organic. They cannot even replicate this with synthetic material. It's just a database that has been blown out of all proportion because it's been seeded in propaganda that it's going to take over, And we think back to Terminator, that big metallic, scary robot coming back from the future, doing all kinds of stuff on the route of destruction, killing all who goes in its way. Yes, that would be a program. But it cannot think for itself because it's operating on a certain set of protocols. And with all the best will in the world, we work with beings, people out there that will just literally pull the plug. Delete.
Yeah, but the funny thing is that this warring class, it's like it believes into this kind of technology, and it believes and thinks the court is gonna be afraid of that. And the moment you have just explained that, it's like when you tell a child you can't have that sweet or that item, the way they pull their or the shape they form with their mouth, and the tears that start forming in their eyes, is the kind of thing I'm seeing with them. It's like they
They're
come.
just the dominators will just abuse the robots.
Yeah.
And the narrative speaks of the fight between man and machine. We're seeing this, I've been watching robots fight big Russian men. Very interesting. They just got it all wrong. How can you punch a robot of metal in the face and expect? You got to go about it in a different way.
Yeah, right now I'm seeing they have advanced it to the level where it's playing badminton, long tennis.
And soon it will be in women's sports.
Oh yeah, I saw one kicking the American football. It was doing some funny tricks there on this football and taking a shot. Maybe I think it was at the center of the field or almost at the edge of the field and making a goal.
Well done, robot.
Yeah. So now you can imagine when they decide you're not gonna have human players, you're gonna have robots.
Yeah, nobody bother. They get the robot. You see, what will happen? The robots will be carrying the brunt of the financial karma.
Yeah, you're saying Manchester United has these robots, Chelsea has these robots, Liverpool and Arsenal have these robots, and they are playing the football. You can imagine if people will be willing to pay for those matches.
You know what would be interesting is rugby robots.
Ooh, they'll be taking those robots to mechanical or whatever because of the type of hitting that happens in that sport.
They'd have to have a garage at the side, service and repairs at half time.
The doctors are the engineers.
Exactly. It'd be like F1 gone nuts. You've got a power cable. Need to connect ankle to brain. Got any tires, love? Anyway, we just sort of went on a tangent there. But, I invite all the souls just to receive that energy. because it's coming through to Earth, all sentient life. And could you describe domination and control, warring parties, in particularly ones with religious programs, i.e., Palestine? We've had this conversation already because it's directly related to Africa. Also, the soul of the royal line of Judah that was interned and trapped in Windsor Castle.
Yeah, one of the stories that goes from my tribe is that long time ago, so it's being placed around 2000 BC, at that around time frame. So they were in this Palestine kind of region, and they were like mercenaries, and they would fight these holy wars. And when I say holy wars, I mean wars that are justified. Let's say you are a peaceful nation, and then a neighboring or wherever invaders come and they take your items, they kill your families, your women, their children, different people, and then you want to go and recapture what was taken and to rebuild your nation. So this is where the mercenaries, which is our tribe at that time, would go and assist you. But if your way of life was dominating, conquering, and plundering, they will never join your cause. And at this time, when the way it's being recounted was when now the Israelites were coming to this region of Palestine. They were here, and before our tribe would go to war, they would remove their shoes, they'd look the holy city of Jerusalem, or the holy site they had, which was Mount Kenya at that time. They would know which direction they would look at, and they would do their prayers before they would go into wars. And they would have long hair. It's like what you'd call the rastas. So when you look at an African, there's a way their hair is twisted naturally. We call the rastas. That's the kind of way they would dress themselves. And so when Joshua comes and he wants to capture Jericho and all that stuff, we do know the kind of information that was brought by the spies is that when they compare themselves to the people of Jericho, they do look like grasshoppers in front of a giant. So you can believe, so first, these people are giants. The second thing, they had superior technology than they had. So this is where now Joshua contracted our tribe when they were going the 7 rounds, and the principle of vibration was used to crash, uh, the walls. And before they did this, they had to remove their shoes and pray to the Most High, or the Creator at that time, or the rituals they did at that time. And these are some of the rituals that you see the Jews practice, of washing their hands, or Muslims removing their shoes, or whatever other religious practices that you see, because most of these acts come from Africa and Africans at that time. And so you come way later when um, King Solomon decides to marry 700 women, and he had 300 concubines. He lost the Ark of the Covenant because it was taken by the son of Ethiopia.
You probably didn't have any time to guard it, to be honest.
Well, you have 700 women.
Yeah, and 300 extras.
Yeah, and
All those
extra.
children.
Yeah, you can imagine. So, now from there, if you go into the Egypt from Ethiopian books, you'll find how you come to Selassie, Emperor Selassie. The Rastafari, they have a lot of history or knowledge about that. And now that's where the culture comes from, and they call him the Lion of Judah. And I don't know, they have some funny names if if
They
you
do.
follow that.
All hail. I can feel drum and bass building in the background there because they're
Yeah,
going to start coming in. Haley,
yeah,
I'm probably saying it wrong. Haley Selassie. Is that right? Haley Selassie?
yeah. It's a tough name to say even for me. Yeah, I think you're pronouncing it correctly.
Okay.
So yeah, during the 1800s when colonization was happening across Africa, so there was one prince in that lineage of Menelik and Selassie, and he was picked up by the British government, and he was taken to UK, and he was I think he was under Queen Victoria. I can't remember who was the ruler at that time, but um, it said that prince lived a very sad life, and then he died. I think if it was because of tuberculosis or some sort of diseases, one of the disease that was ravaging Europe at that time. And once he died, they buried him in one of their sites there, and till today they have refused to return the remains of that prince to back to Ethiopia. And you will find a lot of this story from Ethiopia lineage and the story of the way the Israelites and Ethiopians are related, and all that story is in their books. They have that story. They have kept those records. So yeah.
So I'm just requesting for Credo Motwa to be present. Right. Things just went up a notch. So Harrison, with all the the tribal stories that you've shared, what can you see happening on the planet as you take the overview? Now, if anybody else has perceptions here, please write it down in the live chat. Share your perceptions of what you're picking up on. This is really important.
So what we have, I'll combine it with the story from our elders, what is happening. And the story goes that we are now going into a new era or a new epoch of time. And this epoch of time is because of the way the planet is going around our star, which is our sun, and our sun is going through the galactic core. So there's gonna be the interchanging of the stars, of the positioning of the stars above. And because of the positions of the stars and the planets, they are aligning, a positive kind of energy is coming towards our planet that's gonna cause brighter people to be born, an age of peace, an age of prosperity, and it's something that has been going on for quite some time now. But on the other hand, the system doesn't want to relinquish the power. It's not that it's dumb; it knows what's happening, and one of the things it's doing, it's trying to use technology to kind of stop or limit whatever they perceive is happening, whether it's using the financial muscles, like when you say something the government doesn't want you to say, you suddenly lose your bank account and any money that is held within that bank account, or maybe your property is taken over by the government. They are trying different ways to see how they can curb this kind of wave that's coming, and taking a people where people can start policing themselves. You can start selling out to your friend or your neighbor because, it's a culture that's trying, or the culture of censorship, or where you are report your neighbor when they say something wrong, something like that. But for myself, what I perceive is that despite what the system is doing and all these implementation that seems like an elephant in our eyes, and you'd wonder how some of these systems are gonna crumble. I believe there's something like a wild card. And when I say a wild card, I don't say it's somebody who's gonna be born like a savior kind of mentality complex that is gonna save us. No, I believe this wild card it's like the mentality of the people. It's like a switch it will reach a time where it's like the entire populace will flip
Yeah,
and
it's
say it's enough.
the feeling of non-cooperation.
Yeah.
Just like British children will not be signing up for any British army. They're not going to cooperate. And there's nothing their parents can say, as they well know.
Yeah, and even if they are threatened to be taken to jail, they will be lining themselves to be taken to jail rather than going into a war they don't want to go to. And the system is trying to they are using their supercomputers, super AIs to study some of these things, using their finances, rushing through projects. And in the process of rushing, they're making a lot of mistakes. People who aren't woken up, they are starting to ask questions. Like, for example, in our country, our president had just signed a decree where if a child is born in a hospital, they would have this kind of a digital kind of an ID system being put in them, even without the knowledge of the parent. And then the court said, no, you can't do that, And then on the other side, he says, he's gonna do it whether the courts like it or not. It's like, it reaches a point where some of these people, they don't understand even their limitations, where limitations lie and what the people want. And the more they push, the more people rebel against some of these rules. And if it's happening in our country, just know your country is around the corner, or maybe it's implementing something similar to that. It's just that maybe it's not mainstream. Like, for example, in case of Nigeria, they tried to bring the digital currency. The next day, people are rioting, breaking ATMs, rejecting the digital currency with utmost kind of energy that you have ever seen.
I will investigate. I bet that's really funny.
Yeah, it was crazy, like being told the maximum amount of money you can remove from your ATM is maybe around less than $20. And it's not that you don't have money in your account. You have a lot of money in your account, but you're being told the maximum you can withdraw is $20. It was just crazy, and people went haywire. They started breaking the ATMs, destroying the bank infrastructure, demanding their money, saying they don't want a digital currency. And right now, Nigeria is one of the countries that has embraced the Bitcoin kind of infrastructure. And yeah.
Well, it's all very interesting because most of it is, most of you will know, it's World Economic Forum agendas into these government systems and think tanks of how they can maneuver into the one world currency concept, which is well embedded in the quantum banking system. And we touched upon this some months ago. We discovered its locations. So I just want to roll through that again. Wilna has said that she sees a dove with a small branch leaves in its beak. That's beautiful because peace has been achieved. And when we look and sense with our own inner perceptions up and outwards into the cosmos, into our universal connections, we begin to feel a very different sense of being. And this is what domination and control wants, is for you to feel in fear. If you have no fear, then there's nothing they can do to affect you, your outcome, your choices, or your free will.
Yeah, yeah.
So how would you say that those that intend to create war on earth with all the different groups, how would you see them or perceive them in this moment?
I would say some of them have gone into this level that I would call the extreme level. It doesn't matter what the court says or do. It's like they're fixated in this line of thought. This is what they know, this is what they will do. Doesn't matter whether the world will end or it will be created again. This is their line of thought.
The nihilistic element.
Yeah, and there's this other group that was just like I would call the support group that wants to just stay safe, like I would say the guys who play safe. Like for example, I would say when Africa was being colonized, if you go deep into different countries that were being colonized, you'd find the colonizers who came were way much less than the people they would meet. Maybe you'd have like 50 guys in a region that has maybe over 10,000 guys, the locals that were there. But these guys who came, or these 50 guys, they had superior weapon, the guns that they were using, but the bullets they had were minimum. And there were some people who were super afraid of dying, so they ended up joining the forces with, the 50 people who they would have pushed easily, but they ended up joining
I
forces.
guarantee you that those who sign up with them will not get the reward they were promised. I guarantee it.
Well, they are very good in making promises, but keeping promises is another thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. So those guys who I would now call the support structure that would support this annihilistic kind of being, it's like having second thoughts. These are the guys when the tables turn, they jump quite fast, and they start beating the drum of the other side. It's like they are guys for hire. So long as the other side is benefiting them, they'll just jump ship. They don't have a firm stand.
Yeah. Which shows weak character for all races that do that. In the background, I'm celebrating with Nigerians here. It's like, hey, break it down, literally from the machine into the bank. Let them know. And I love that spirit. I do. It's like, no, we will not tolerate that. We want cash. We want fiat currency. I know it's the principle of what, they're both the same. However, it's that spirit that says, no, I do not comply.
Yeah. So that's the kind of an environment I'm feeling in the court. And it's not that they don't know the outcome of what will happen in the end. Yeah, they already know. This is why this support structure is just jumping ship. And they will have like those in different types of waters. Whatever they
Mm-hmm.
feel is benefiting them, that's where they will jump. So what I would urge the souls that are here in the spiritual court of equity is to discern these people. Make sure they don't give them elective positions, because they'll swing to whatever motion the wave comes. If they will be told the only way you're gonna survive is you sacrifice the soul of your nation, they'll go ahead and sacrifice the soul of their nation just to save their own skin.
So I'm just going to take this spiritual court of equity to the next level now. I feel that it's got to go this way. So I know it's late where you are, Harrison. It's been a marathon this evening for you. So all of these warring factions, countries, religious programmed beliefs have an origin in the light body. So I'm just going to request that is removed from the highest level, the warring program that operates the operating system, that creates specific instructions. For everyone that's joined us here today, you're getting a huge dose of this. Everything that keeps people in war. And it's wired into the central nervous system. And they've actually done that.
Yeah.
If anyone feels more peaceful core as a result of what just happened, do let me know there in that live chat. It's fascinating stuff. We really are pioneering this.
The war of ideology.
Absolute beauty to share with you. I don't even care that we're censored. I don't care that we're restricted, because it's all going to happen anyway. How did you feel once that shift had taken place at your core, Harrison?
Yeah, this sense of extensive peace. The moment you go into this place where you're not polarized in this direction or in this direction, but you can see the information from a neutral perspective.
Yes.
You are able to see the way they are playing themselves. And whatever decisions they try making, you're gonna see them from 100 miles away. Like, for example, this sense of peace that the people have, like, for example, when Israel went to Palestine, there are huge protests happening everywhere. Like, for example, in UK, a huge protest happened where millions and millions of people, or hundreds of thousands of people, came off the streets to protest war. Right now, the government wants the young people to join the military. They are saying no. Nobody wants, from that level, nobody wants war.
They don't, they just want to live in peace.
Yeah, and the system, the only thing they do know is to create more, because the more people decline war, the more they create war in places even where they don't exist. Like, for example, hearing in Yemen, or the Iran wanting to fight US, and some funny kind of weird stories. Wondering what the heck is happening here.
Babylon versus the esoterics. Whoa.
Yeah, and the other one, you're hearing India wants to fight Pakistan. What's the end result with all these things? But
destruction.
yeah, but in reality, when you go into these countries and ask the people, nobody wants to go to war. Nobody wants to fight, and everybody wants to live in peace with each and every single person, or with their friends and families. They don't want to go killing each other, even if they can't get along. Nobody wants to take an axe and strike their friend or their family member because you don't get along.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this actually is in the family unit, and you see it triggered at certain times. It's fascinating stuff because it's all an internal program, an insertion. So some feedback from the live chat. Wilna says it's like a flash of light transmuting that war programming. And it is. So my focus is those that are really resistant to it. You know, I mean, there's barely any humanity left in them. That's what we're dealing with. So, yeah, look. Now, I'm just going to invite King Charles onto the separate front bit of the spiritual court of equity. And do we get a release of the Ethiopian royal line from Windsor Castle?
What I'm getting is that the information that I have is the spirit of this young prince was released a long time ago. It's like the Ethiopians, they did a certain kind of ritual to release the spirit of this young boy from wherever he had been tied to. So the only part that remains is having the remains being restored back to where they're supposed to be, which is a kind of a symbolic kind of a gesture.
Absolutely. Now, it's the same spells and rituals used over Princess Diana, to let you know that. And we Derek, you and I did that release of Princess Diana's soul a little while back. The same beings, same magic. It stinks.
Yeah.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And you just wonder what's wrong with some of these people, because it's like inherent within them to just create war and
program after program after program, programmed for war. So I'm just going to observe the timelines of this piece rippling out, correcting, realigning to peace, because this is the fifth song. It is a time of peace. And those who want to fight, destroy, kill, and harm sentient life may not enter here. And that message is out. Somebody's asked if they're possessed. Yes, they will be possessed into the reptilian brain and rewired accordingly. Others will have war programs in their light body, causing them to act and harm others and violate free will in all forms. Right, there's a massive movement now through the spiritual court. The objectives have been completed. What do you observe in the timelines, Harrison?
what I feel I'm getting this kind of joy among the people. It's like they're very happy. There's this extensive peace that's flowing within them. And something with the controllers, it's like they're saying you might have won some battles, but this is a war. So I'm like, okay, well, we'll see the timelines playing out, and maybe whenever you are not gonna be in your country when people are hunting you down, you remember this time.
Right. I say to those that say that, guess what? We're everywhere and there's nothing you can do. You're a bit of London Angela coming out there. Oi. No. There's
Yeah.
nothing you can do. You're not part of this scene of peace. Be gone. Right. What's the status? How much are we into completion, Harrison?
I'm getting like the works that we are supposed to do today has been completed. Though other levels or other aspects will still continue to be sorted out as time progresses, because here's something that's ongoing. One of the things that I'm being reminded here, that free will is something that's very key, and each person needs to understand what free will is and how they're supposed to use their free will. Because the reason why these controllers have reached that level they have reached, it's because they know how to manipulate, usurp, and control the free will of others, and create timelines they themselves want, even if the majority of the people don't want that timeline. They manage to achieve those timelines because they're able to harness that energy and prop it up and charge every person in that kind of direction. So it's a waking call for each and every single person to start knowing what their free will is
And use it
and use
to
it.
achieve peace. And just non-cooperation. If you don't feel happy with something, stop cooperating.
Yeah. And don't be this class of people who jump ship, and support the other side just because to save your skin, not knowing that you have children, you'll have grandchildren, you'll have a lineage that will come from you, and they're gonna grow through hell because of a simple decision that you took, maybe now or maybe later in your life, but in years to come, it's gonna screw up majority of the generations that are gonna come.
Very well said, Harrison. Brilliant read on the lesson of using free will. That was the important point. It's only when we begin to do that will we see the change. And that is on a moment by moment basis, being unfazed by the heavy propaganda and the misinformation and lies. Ooh. Right, so the extra levels that you're talking about is still being undone. I'm going to be observing that and ensuring that that completes itself. We're not going to see any surprises. Negative magic traps and negative magic and builds itself into its own prison and lockdown. So we shall be taking care of that. So look, we've had a right bunch of lovely people, subscribers and visitors tonight, whatever. And it's been really great to feel your presence tangibly supporting this spiritual court of equity and the aim of peace on earth. We don't even need to fight. For what? We just want to have a good time and live our lives in the best way possible, keeping our spiritual gifts and skills and abilities awake within us, mindful, using our senses to achieve all the best things that we want for our families, for our communities, for our existence, and for our dear beloved great mother of earth. So thank you to everyone that's joined us. Do leave a like, because it all helps. And if you'd like a session with myself, please do get in contact with me. If you want to hear more of some other things that I'm going to do or am doing in these moments, do post your email address to me somehow via social media, send me a private message. There will always be a route to discover where I'm at, and I will respond to you as soon as I possibly can without being blocked. I made a tiny little statement on my Facebook page this week, and I'm not allowed to send any more messages. That's so funny. Anyway, so thank you very much for joining us and watching this video, past, present, and future, through all soul paths of progression. May we reach everyone in these times and really enjoy these times and not listen to anything that's coming in at you, because all that matters is in you. So, with the greatest gratitude and deepest thanks from my heart, have a really great weekend. Enjoy your existence and reality, and don't take it on board. It's not you. It's not who your soul is. We are not built for war. Might be programmed for it, but we're not built for it. There's a difference. Okay. Give thanks to all of you again. Classical.